Welcome to Small Business Big Visibility. I'm here with David Cruz. He's got a cool story. So the guy grew up playing every kind of sport imaginable, and that passion for sports and competing and doing well kind of drove you to where you're at now in life, where you've transitioned and now you're focused all on the body and health and taking care of yourself and reducing inflammation. And tell us a little bit about your story.
Now, everything that I'm talking about right now is not medical advice. This is not used to treat or overcome any kind of metabolic diseases or illnesses. Please speak with your primary care provider before you try anything at all. Yeah, sure. Well, I did have the ability to gain that competitive edge growing up playing sports. My brother was so athletic that at a really young age, he got acknowledgement for his ability to take over basketball games and football games.
Oh, wow.
At such a young age, and me growing up watching him just kind of fueled me. And then so growing up, played football, basketball, ran track for many years, was very, very competitive. Mm-hmm. And, I love to stay active. I'm 42 right now, mm-hmm. but at 33, I had to cut my basketball shoelaces, and throw them away and make sure that I don't buy another pair because of high school ankle injuries, constantly rolling my ankles in football, basketball, and track. I knew I just had to give it up. I can continue running, forward and backwards, no issue there with my ankles, but any kind of lateral movement, oh no.
All the post and pivots and things.
Yeah, all of that, a lot of pain. So,
right.
So pain has inhibited me in certain areas of my life, and I know not to go down that road anymore.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
It's wisdom to know when to stop.
Exactly. Yeah.
So what's your favorite sport to play?
Growing up, I ran track, and then after high school, in my first year of college, when I stopped running, I for many years stopped running. Now, I actually enjoy going to Orange Theory and sprinting on the treadmill, because if I go up a hill, hiking, that'll mess up my ankle. Right. But I love just, shooting free throws. I love basketball. I love watching football and basketball. I don't have time to watch a full 2 to 3 hour game, so I get 10-minute highlights on YouTube every once in a while.
Oh, nice, yeah.
That keeps me in the knowing. I know who's winning. I know who's doing good.
Yep.
My 10-minute highlights, that's about it. So.
Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah.
So have you ever surfed?
Growing up in California, most people would assume that I learned in California. I did not. About 10 years ago when I moved here to Idaho in the back of a boat on Lucky Peak Lake, that's where I surfed. That's where I learned how to surf.
Had to move to Idaho so you could learn to surf.
Had to move to Idaho so that, I can broaden my horizons.
Excellent. So how does all of this background of sports translate to what you're doing now? And tell us what you're doing.
Sure. So essentially, this competitive edge that I gained from such a young age, I think really catapulted my business career at a really, really young age. Right out of high school, besides being a legal secretary, I got a job at LA Fitness as a personal trainer.
Okay.
Right, and after about 6 months, I actually became the fitness manager, meaning that I was selling personal trainer, and I was still 18 at the time.
So you're still fresh out of high school, and you're the big cheese.
Kinda, yeah.
Wow, that's
on
cool.
the fitness side, yeah. I was basically ensuring that all of my personal trainers made a decent living.
Wow.
And then, being in the gym environment for about a year and becoming buddy-buddy with the general manager, he started showing me his paychecks.
Oh, okay.
And I was completely taken out, I had no idea you can make that much money as a general manager, and this guy was only 22 years old.
Oh, wow.
So by 19 years old, I demoted myself to just a regular salesman selling memberships, and then within a few months, within a year and a half before I was 21, by 20 years old, I became the general manager of LA Fitness in Pasadena, California.
Wow.
Yeah, and I have never experienced so many threats and so much pressure to deliver money to a corporation.
Really?
Right? Yeah, they basically sent me to one of the least producing gyms in Pasadena, California at the time. I remember when I first got there, it was only 5 memberships a day that they really wanted me to sell.
Okay.
And then the first month I was there, I averaged 7 memberships a day. And then the next month they doubled my quota and doubled. I remember by the time I was done with them after a few years, I had to sell 15 to 20 memberships a day.
Whoa.
Yeah.
From 5.
From 5. So that really, taught me how to have this competitive edge. So fast forward years later, I was in the gym industry for 20 years, felt like a slave. Okay.
So we're working for other gyms that whole time?
Yeah.
Okay.
Primarily LA Fitness.
Okay.
Then I moved to Idaho in 2015. Okay. And I picked up a really good job at Axiom, which is now Villa Sports.
Gotcha.
And the better I did, the higher they raised my quota. And I knew this. And I was thinking to myself, man, am I ever going to satisfy them? Right? I felt like a slave. Right? Yeah. Constantly working 6 to 7 days a week, salary. I was on that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, salary. And so what ended up happening is that I ran into someone one day randomly where they're a real estate agent. And they recruited me to do real estate. So in 2016, I finally left the gym industry.
That is a huge shift, too.
Yeah. And
gym, real estate.
Yeah. And so I thought it was going to be more money and less pressure. It was more pressure and actually less money.
Right.
And what's interesting is a rookie real estate agent for a builder, they didn't really want to pay me much.
Right.
So, I was selling about 20 homes a month.
Wow.
But that was from walk-in traffic.
Sure.
I didn't have to do any kind of marketing or promoting, which is why my commission was not very much.
But that's still, you're selling one a day, basically, almost.
Yeah, exactly. So what's awesome about it is that the perceive of it was that it's 9 to 5. Oh, okay, great. 9 to 5. That sounds amazing after working 60, 70 hours a week at the gym. But what they didn't tell me is that if someone came in at 4:30 and was interested in purchasing a home, I had to sit there with them and talk about it until they're ready to leave. I couldn't kick them out and say, hey, it's 5 o'clock, I'm off the clock.
Right.
Salary. Right?
Gotcha.
Yeah. So what ended up happening is that I was working just the same amount. Yes, I had 2 days off, but I was working 12 to 14 hours a day. So with the notion of eating healthy, the idea of eating healthy, I was eating chicken breast, brown rice, and green vegetables every day with high levels of stress.
Yeah.
So low fat in my diet, eating the same thing over and over again, not eating the variety of nutrient density types of foods. I stuck to one thing, created that habit, thought I was living a healthy lifestyle. Well, with the high levels of inflammation, high levels of stress, and not getting enough nutrient density of various types of foods, I developed diverticulitis.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So here we are, 2016. I had horrible diverticulitis. I ended up going to the hospital.
Wow.
And I essentially had emergency surgery. And I say that because they said, I'm going to need emergency surgery. So I thought, okay, are we going in right now? They're like, oh, no, we're going to schedule you for 2 weeks out. It's like, I thought this was emergency.
They have a different definition here.
Right? So essentially they told me to have bread, white rice, and pudding for the next couple of weeks. Don't have any protein and don't have any fiber. I was like, all right, this is nonsense.
Right.
I didn't listen to that. I just minimized the amount of food that I ate, right? So I finally go in, I have my emergency surgery, and they removed 20% of my colon.
Whoa.
And after being in the hospital for 5 days, the doctor came out and was like, oops, sorry, you still got it. I was like, what? They're like, yeah. They're like, don't worry. For the next 3 to 4 weeks, just want you to have bread, rice, and pudding, and we'll put you on antibiotics for the next 6 to 8 months before you come back, and we'll cut out another 15 to 20% of your colon.
Whoa.
I was like, what? I was like, this is not okay. I don't think this is good information.
Right, yeah.
So without even knowing, a good friend of mine, she's a restorative wellness gastrointestinal health practitioner, aka a gut expert. I contacted her. I don't even know why. I just did.
Yeah.
Something told me to. She was a good friend of mine. I knew she had personal training experience. I didn't know she was a gut expert. And she said, David, if you want to live without a colostomy bag hanging out your side, you're going to have to figure out how to heal your gut and then adopt a non-inflammatory nutrition lifestyle. I was like, whoa, what was that? To make a long story short, a detailed 5-minute conversation took me down a rabbit hole of information that I had no idea even existed. And so instead of listening to the doctor of eating bread, white pudding, and other
just
empty calories.
Right, yeah, nothing but processed sugar, right?
Right? Instead of that, I adapted that non-inflammatory nutrition lifestyle, and in 8 weeks I dropped 50 pounds.
Whoa.
I felt like I regained my vitality, I got my youth back. Right? This was in 2017. And so after going through that experience, and like my hobby at that, you asked me my hobbies, my number one hobby now is just research.
Oh, okay.
Like I'm obsessed with research and finding more information about the human body, right? And so I ended up posting my before and after picture on social media, and got so many people, like they couldn't believe, my experience and what I went through. And I knew that this was amazing information that I had to share with people.
Right, yeah.
So I ended up getting certified with Dr. Eric Berg out of Richmond, Virginia, and in nutrition healing. And then Dr. Mindy Pelz out of the Pacific Northwest, somewhere in Washington, Oregon, I don't recall, women's hormone syncing. And what they both talked about the most is eliminating inflammatory foods and eating a variety of nutrient-dense, non-inflammatory foods.
Gotcha.
And so after that, I continued with my credentials, became a nutrition therapist, and then essentially identified with what I'm doing. At the end of the day, everything is an addiction, especially food.
Oh, interesting.
So what I do is I support people in overcoming addiction.
Oh, wow.
Primarily with food.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That is very interesting. I doubt there's more than a handful of people who recognize there's an addiction with food. Like that's not what you walk into Food Anonymous, right? And it's just it doesn't happen.
It doesn't happen. Yeah. So I don't have that conversation with people right away because it'll offend them.
Sure.
Right. So later on into the program, when they are no longer taking specific medications, when they feel lighter on their feet, when they have, more energy, more mental clarity, when they're experiencing all of those non-scale victories, not just looking at the scale, right, the weights, it's much easier for me to say, hey, you know what? Even food is an addiction, and it's okay. You're at the point now where you can understand that we don't always need food to give us energy, right? Like our body is smart. Our body knows what to do when there's no interference, right? It's one of my favorite quotes by B.J. Palmer, the one who puts chiropractic care on the map. He says, nature needs no help to progress. It simply needs no interference.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I know I kind of threw a lot at you right now. I kind of gave you the wide range of everything, but that's kind of like how I started my practice and what I do. I've been on this journey now for about 8 years of just nutrition education, and I love it.
I could imagine, yeah. To have that transformation where you went from high stress thinking you're healthy, thinking, and then reality just slaps you across the head, and then go into the traditional medical system and find out that they don't know what they're doing, and they're just going to keep cutting chunks out. I mean, could you imagine taking your car to a mechanic and he's like, oh,
this doesn't work.
Yeah, we'll take it out.
Right?
This hose is corroded. We'll just cut 20% out, and the car still doesn't work. We're going to cut some more out, right?
Yeah, we're going to cut some more out. Yeah, it doesn't need more. It needs less.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very different approach.
Completely different approach. Yeah. Yeah, and the more the information that's coming out, we're starting to recognize in many people. I think now we're at in 2025, people are starting to identify that maybe low-fat, high-sugar wasn't the way.
Right.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah. So, when all the markers are indicating America's getting less healthy, and we've been on this low-fat, high-sugar diet for the last 30, 40 years as a country. Yeah. I think you're right. People are starting to say, wait a second. This isn't working.
There's a funny episode of South Park where they're talking about like health, right? It's funny. These guys are hilarious. Essentially what's going on is that they're talking about the health of America. And I don't even know the character's name, but you know, the little funny fat one that's always talking with a weird voice.
Okay.
He's like, I think we're wrong about health. And he's like, you know what? I got an idea. Let's do something crazy and radical. And what he's doing, he's like, let's turn the food pyramid upside down. And as they're doing it, they're just showing people becoming healthier and more alive and more awake. And it's like, I think this works. Anyways, I'm always constantly thinking about that when it comes to the evolution of health in America. Yeah, but with all that being said, you know, me trying different things and maintaining my competitive edge has took me from sales in a gym, legal secretary, personal trainer, sales in a gym, real estate. And you know, back in 2011, my brother and I started a small business. It was called Forever Faith.
Oh, okay.
It was a T-shirt line, and he's still running with it. You know, he's still doing that. And that's great. That's his passion. But you know, as a small business owner in my entire life, I've always been fixated on what CRM system do I use to get this information out? What platform should I use? And it's been 8 years. I think I mentioned to you that I'm on the brink of launching my business.
Right.
And the one thing that's been holding me back is that I've been wanting to, I'd love to say that I'm a perfectionist, but I still am just not confident with which CRM system to use until now. And as you may know, one of my business partners, Will Green.
Oh, okay.
You know, he's an expert at Go High Level.
Yep.
He introduced that to me.
Oh, okay.
And I'm just really excited about finally having a system, not only that I feel confident with, but that I have someone supporting me. Like, I feel like I have a team now.
Oh, right. Yeah.
In all the business ventures that I've done, besides my brother, I've never really had a team. I've kind of been solo.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
What was that like trying to be that solo guy and now having a team? What's that been like for you?
Man, you know, talk about nerve-wracking, right? And I think in my journey of not having a team doing things on my own, I've really had to learn on becoming patient, not being so hard on myself. And what's interesting is that when I had my diverticulitis, I was in a really, really depressed state. And being a sales guy, right, for some reason, I was solo. I had a guy in the office next to me, but everything that I did was solo. No matter how good I did, I never felt good about myself.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think there's two things that contributed to that. Number one, my gut health at the time.
Sure.
And number two, trying to figure it out on my own. Yeah. So now that I have a business partner that knows CRMs and systems, I'm really excited that after 8 years, I'm finally going to launch my business.
Right. Oh, yeah. Yeah, and it's so interesting because I've seen people who go out and they find a business partner, but that business partner knows all the same stuff they do. And they're like, oh yeah, we can both do the same stuff. And what you're saying is, I don't have someone that does all my stuff. I have my specialty over here, and they have their specialty over here, and together, you're able to build things that neither one of you could build alone.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, it's awesome because we've both been a huge support to each other's success in our own way.
Right.
Yeah, and you know, working with him has really inspired me to realize how much of a change that I can make in this world, right? Because before, for the past 8 years, I had been only focusing on nutrition therapy. But working with him, I see that there's so much, so many other things in so many areas that I'm starting to incorporate in people's health.
So what are the symptoms of the people that should be coming to you? Like, what's going on in their lives? Paint that picture.
That's a really good question. And, you know, for years, all these business gurus have always been telling me, hey, David, in order for you to succeed, you've got to find your niche.
Okay.
You've got to find your niche, right?
Sure.
And like, okay, like on a logical aspect, like I mean, that does make sense because that's what everyone does.
Sure.
Right? And not to say that I don't have a niche. I certainly do have a niche. You know, the people who can benefit from my services, like within hours, in days, are people with diabetes, cancer, and any kind of neurodegenerative or cognitive decline issue. Right? But right now, 97% of the U.S. population is insulin resistant.
Wow.
97%.
So 3% of Americans.
3% of Americans.
You see 100, 3 don't have the problem.
Yeah.
Whoa.
So I specialize in reversing insulin resistance.
Wow.
Yeah. So who can utilize my service? I'll put it to you like this. If you can't go longer than 18 to 24 hours without food and feel amazing, that person is a prime candidate for what I do. So it's like extremes, right?
Right.
Because even athletic competitors can benefit from changing up their nutrition. Someone who's in tip-top shape and looks like the top 1%ers, right? But for instance, like bodybuilders.
Yeah.
Bodybuilders' lifespan, now I'm not going to put any specific number, right?
Sure.
But like we see what's happening with these guys when they hit 50 years old, and women too. So many health issues. They're on 10 to 15 different prescribed medications.
Whoa.
You know, and you know they have to have breakfast, lunch, and dinner, or else they're going to feel tired and dizzy, right? At the end of the day, what causes us to experience these addictions are the hormones we're producing in our body, not only from medications and other drinks and toxins we put into our body, but food.
Gotcha.
Food, right? And so you probably ask me, like, well, what does not going 18 to 24 hours have to do with anything? Well, when there's enough sugar in our bloodstream, we produce a hormone called insulin. Okay? Another hormone by the name of ghrelin follows insulin.
Okay.
Ghrelin is our hunger hormone. It causes us to be hungry. When we're constantly elevating our blood sugar levels, we produce more and more insulin.
Sure.
Okay? The more insulin you have, the more ghrelin you have.
Oh, okay.
That's making you think you need food.
Oh, wow.
Kind of like alcoholic feels sober after a couple of drinks when they wake up in the morning, right? It's just hormones. So what I always like to say is that all we are is a big bag of bacteria and hormones. And if we're causing specific hormones to be produced, it's going to cause other hormones to be produced and create different bacterias in our body. Yeah. So essentially, you know, I love working with senior citizens with cognitive decline. I love working with cancer patients who think they can't do anything, but they really can. And diabetics, you know, diabetes is just too much sugar in the bloodstream. So when we remove sugar, there's no more diabetes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's literally that easy. And I'm talking about specifically type 2 diabetes, right? Type 1 diabetes, it's not that easy, but it's kind of the same thing. Because we talk about insulin all the time. Insulin is what lowers our blood sugar level, right? But then type 1 diabetics are afraid to go into a state of hypoglycemia, meaning their blood sugar levels drop. The only reason why their blood sugar levels drop so low and experience hypoglycemia is because they're injecting themselves with insulin. Insulin shuts off glucagon production. Glucagon elevates our blood sugar levels when our blood sugar levels go down. So there's supposed to be a balance naturally. But when type 1 diabetics inject themselves with insulin, their blood sugar levels drop so that they need sugar to elevate their blood sugar levels.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So you're saying there's a vast population, perhaps not 100%, but a vast population are making themselves dependent on systems, and there's actually an off-ramp for a lot of that.
Nature needs no help to progress. It simply needs no interference. Yeah. Yeah, there is an off-ramp. But, you know, we're not taught about this. We're taught about insulin, right, which is the hormone that lowers blood sugar level, but nobody's ever heard of glucagon. We're not taught these things. That's why going deep down the rabbit hole, you know, and I mean deep. You can't just Google this information. If you Google it, it's not going to come up. Yeah. So we can't rely on Google anymore, especially with AI nowadays. We have to use discernment.
Gotcha. Go to some original studies and original sources to really dive into this information.
Yeah.
So people can discover for themselves what the truth is.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah. So it's been an amazing journey, not only with understanding nutrition better, but just as a small business owner, right? The trials and tribulations, the learnings of, you know, how do I get this message out? How do I get this information out so that it's not distasteful, so that it's not offensive, right? Because everything that I'm talking about right now and everything that I'm claiming, you know, we've been told by doctors is like, this is the way. Right?
Now, you're certainly not proclaiming to everyone on this podcast they need to give up their insulin right now or anything like that, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that would cause far more problems.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's a weaning process off of the addiction.
Right, there's a process to do everything.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's not just about throwing away the insulin. It's not just about going on a low-carb diet overnight. Right. That's why when people get on get started on my program, you don't eliminate carbs and sugars right away.
Yeah, because somebody hearing this would be like, oh, I'll just get rid of that and end up in the hospital worse off, right?
Thank you for bringing that up. Absolutely. Hopefully you've been listening to this podcast from the beginning. Hopefully you're still on right now. Yeah. So yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So it's definitely a process, and there's a specific way on how to do it. Absolutely. So, but you know, I think one of the biggest turning points in my life is when, and you know, or should I say eye-opening experience is when I had to have breakfast. And if I skipped lunch, I felt like crap.
Oh, okay.
You know?
Yeah.
And then and then just, racing home or going out to eat to getting more food, right? For me, like on an unconscious level, I realized it was an addiction, but like I didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
Right? I had no idea that the more I eat carbs and sugars, the more I want carbs and sugars, which is exactly why you can't just overnight do it. It's a process, a specific process.
Yeah, and to me, I love this story that you told earlier of the fact that you're a super high performer, like selling 20 homes a month, you're doing whatever it takes, you made the gym just skyrocket with sales, all these different times you're high performing.
Yeah.
And pushing your body, push, until eventually the body's like, I've tapped out. Yeah. And you develop this disease. And how many other business owners, how many other sales professionals, how many other people in America have had that same experience where they're like, I am doing my best, I'm pushing, and all of a sudden the body's like, okay, I reached my limit, right?
Yeah.
And now you're like, after 8 years of study and discovery, you can now confidently tell the world, there's another way.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, that's a great point you bring up because, in my early 20s, I was doing some bodybuilding, right? I was eating all day long, and I was in great shape, right? And me eating constantly really fueled my energy. Okay, this was in my 20s. Right?
Yeah.
I'm now 42 years old. I ended up dating someone about 6 years ago that she was in the middle of like a competition, bodybuilding competition, and I promised myself I would never do that again, right? But she really wanted me to do it with her, and to support her, I ended up doing it. And with my knowledge and information that I have now, it's amazing the journey that I took for that bodybuilding competition. So instead of eating every 2 to 3 hours, I ate all of my food within a few hour windows, and I exercise fasted. I didn't eat so I exercised in the morning on an empty stomach, and throughout the day I continued to just drink water, green tea, and maybe even just a bulletproof coffee, and I ate 2 to 3 meals in a 4 to 6 hour window.
Okay.
Right, just stuffed all my calories there. And then after that competition, I took my fasting to another level.
I really like the fact that you've been willing to go out and experiment at so many levels to discover what works for you. But the bigger picture to me is this idea that you thought the world worked this way, and it wasn't until this teeny little conversation, right? You said it was a 5-minute conversation.
5 minutes, yeah.
Has transformed your entire life to now you're a totally different person, right?
Yeah.
And it's those little things, those little moments that make such a trajectory difference in our life, whether it's nutrition, whether it's business, relationship, whatever it is, those little moments that we often don't even recognize until later cause that huge shift.
Yeah. And, I think more than anything, what this has given me the ability to do is respond versus react almost in everything that I do.
Yeah.
It's given me the opportunity to take a step back, view the situation, and then make a better decision, whatever it is. Just more mental energy, more mental clarity. I think, that's the gift that it has given me, and I'm utilizing that the most to show up better for my clients.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, this whole well of experience, this other well of studying what actually others have discovered and scientifically documented now makes you capable of going out and helping other people on their journey of discovery.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not too many people talk about dry fasting, and I get it. It's scary to even think of. Yeah. Right? The first time I did it, only reason why I was so confident is because, I water fasted for 5 to 7 days with exercise. Yeah. So. Yeah.
So what are your thoughts around these? There's become a bit of a controversy, it seems like, in the medical world, and America's health standard versus some of the rest of the world. And I know some of the big things today are some of these artificial dyes and food colorings.
Yeah.
In your perspective, what have you discovered from that?
Well, you know what? I'm going to start off by saying if you go to Ireland right now and go to Subway sandwich, the bread is not considered food. It's considered dessert.
Oh.
Because there's so much sugar in it. Yeah, so all of these dyes that we have in these foods on top of seed oils and sugar are the biggest contributors to metabolic dysfunction.
Oh, wow.
And when I say metabolic dysfunction, and we're talking about neurodegenerative or any kind of cognitive decline, it's all because it all starts in the gut, right? 90% of our feel-good hormone, serotonin, is not produced in the brain. It's actually produced in the gut.
Oh, wow.
So when we're putting toxins like dyes and seed oils and over-consuming sugar, that's the biggest contributor to metabolic dysfunction, and that's what makes us dependent on eating, right? Like this dependency on eating, because it triggers specific hormones. It triggers insulin, and it thus triggering more hunger hormone, ghrelin. So, you know, bravo to the rest of the world that is eliminating these toxins from their foods, right? And that just, you know, I don't even know what to say. God bless America. I'm happy I live here. I'm happy I live in this country. I would not want to live in any other country in the world. However, we're being attacked in many ways that are slowing down or inhibiting our metabolism, which thus is slowing down the healing process in our body, right? Like our metabolism is our engine, and if, like to a car, right? If you break someone's engine in their car, are they going anywhere? Nope.
Only downhill.
Only downhill. So if we can support our engine, right, by making better conscious decisions. Look, I'm not going to tell you that I don't drink. I'm not going to tell you that I don't have sugar. I'm not going to tell you that I don't have special case cereal once in a while, but I can afford that. I can afford that because typically Monday through Thursday or Monday through Friday, I eat really clean. I practice intermittent fasting. So I'm not afraid of these harmful toxins that are affecting the rest of the world. That's why I say, like, I love this country. I wouldn't want to live anywhere else. But I'm aware I have the edge, and that's what I'm trying to do with people. It's not about eating, it's not about being restrictive for the rest of your life, right? It's about short-term therapy, getting rid of these harmful toxins in our body, and the longer we stay away from it, the faster we metabolize it.
Gotcha.
Right?
Yeah, so we can handle a little bit.
We can handle it.
Yeah.
But just not every single, not for breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Right.
Yeah, maybe Friday, Saturday, Sunday, but not 21 meals in 7 days. Right? Yeah, and so what I have to say to that is that people need to do their own research. People need to wake up, and they need to make their own decisions and not just listen to commercials and radio. And when they're in the grocery store, and if they see something that says heart healthy, don't just look at it and say, oh, this is healthy for my heart. Read the label and see what it has in it. And if you don't know what things are, let me just say it like this. If you can't pronounce it easily and effortlessly, as long as you have, you know, an 8th grade education, if you have an 8th grade education and you cannot read what's in these foods, then you probably shouldn't have it.
That's a pretty good rule of thumb.
That's it right there.
Yeah, everyone can read banana. Oh,
Yeah.
I can eat that.
I can eat that, yeah. Or let me put it to you like this. You shouldn't have it every day.
Right, yeah.
Like I said, because I still drink alcohol.
Okay.
Right? And I know that's poison to the body, but like I can handle it. And it's not because I'm young, it's because I'm metabolically efficient.
Right.
I'm not experiencing metabolic dysfunction. When you reach that point of metabolic dysfunction, you begin to metabolize these toxins slower and less. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah. So
you-
I always like to say nothing is good nor bad, but it depends on where you're at.
Yeah.
Right? Because what I tell my clients to stay away from when they're trying to lose weight, overcome cancer, diabetes, or any kind of cognitive decline is the same food that I eat right before my workout. But because I'm using it,
Yeah.
right? I'm not going to have a bowl of white rice and then go and chill. If I have a bowl of white rice, I better be in the gym within an hour. Otherwise, it's going to slow down my metabolism.
Gotcha.
Yeah, but I mean, I won't drink and then go work out. That's yeah, that's something else. Yeah.
Yeah, that would make for some interesting videos.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. So it's just kind of like where you're at, and it's not about restricting yourself for life. It's about restricting yourself for the time that you need to overcome it, so that your body can metabolize it faster.
And it's, to me, what I hear though is it's not so much restricting, because restriction comes from a point of view. But when you shift that point of view, it's no longer a restriction.
That's right.
It's a new life.
It's a new life.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, because me, it's not about restricting. Exactly to your point. I mean, I use that for fuel.
Right.
Like it's okay for a bodybuilder or someone who exercises a lot to have that bowl of white rice, to have the potatoes, to have the bread. Why do I mention bread, white rice, and potatoes? Well, bread, white rice, and potatoes have 0 to no nutrient density, meaning that it's not even food. But what it does is that it elevates your blood sugar level. Right? And so insulin is a double-edged sword. When you're not insulin resistant, insulin is good for you. So for that 3% of people in this country that are not insulin resistant, they're insulin sensitive, insulin is now beneficial to our health. Right?
Yeah.
Kind of like a hammer. Are you using it as a tool or a weapon? And right now, 97% of the population is using a hammer to slowly kill their metabolism.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's amazing. What a different way of looking at things. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, I mean, I love exercise. I believe exercise is great for our brain, our heart, our lungs, and our muscles for longevity, right? We want to build muscle not only to live a healthy lifestyle, but at a certain age, that grandma or grandpa is going to need muscle and balance to bend over to get pots and pans out of the lower drawers.
Right.
Right? Muscle is going to help you stand on your tippy toes to go on the drawers above. That's all muscle. Right? And if we're not utilizing movement, then we're not going to build those muscles. And that's what's going to, I don't remember who it was. I think it was Dr. Danielle Lyons. She was talking about the number one cause for hip replacements for senior citizens is lack of muscle density. Yeah, they just can't do it anymore, and their ligaments and tendons wear out, and they need to repair that.
Wow.
Yeah.
All because they didn't take care of the muscle.
That's right.
Wow.
Yeah. It's not about being big and buff. It's about utilizing it constructively. Yeah.
So if someone wanted to reach out to you, contact you, find out more, like how do they get in touch with you?
Yeah, sure. So my website is totalmetabolicSolutions.com, and I'm also on Instagram at Total Metabolic Solutions, and you just on the click of a button you can contact me directly, and we can schedule a 15-minute discovery call. We can talk about what's going on with your health needs and what it is that you're looking to accomplish, whether you're someone who is really healthy and trying to get to that next level, or someone who has cancer, diabetes, or cognitive decline, we can support your health and everything in between. So like I say, I don't have a niche, but everyone can support benefiting their health one way or another through nutrition, supplementation, intermittent fasting, and breath work. Those are the 4 pillars that I utilize in my practice.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah.
Well, I sure appreciate you coming on the podcast today.
Yeah,
this has been exciting and interesting for sure. I feel like my brain's been opened in whole new directions.
Man, thank you for having me, and I really appreciate you, reaching out. And podcast isn't something that I do often, but I'm really excited to really getting this information out there, and thank you for allowing me to share my journey.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think that's one of the things our audience loves most is they're all real humans bumbling through life just like we are, and hearing other people's story, hearing their experiences gives us that moment of pivot, hearing what you've gone through, and someone can say, wait a minute, I'm going through this, that relates, I can change my life now. So thank you for being willing to share.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
To all of our listeners, I encourage you to go check out his website, go check out his social media, and connect with David.
Thank you so much.